Emily. I live in Chongqing, and it's time to explore the city. We're on our way to 𝗖𝗵cie，the restaurant we couldn't find last week. But on the way, we're gonna stop and see a man about a watch. Peter needs the battery in his watch changed, and it turns out that's not just a plug-and-play operation. I was surprised to find out. So we looked up a watch guy, and we're gonna go see if he can help us out. 他要换电池，对。In last week's video, we unsuccessfully looked for poet 𝗖𝗵cie Chongqing restaurant, and commenter Alpha Wong gave us a tip that it might be in the 𝗖𝗵park Culture Park area, and we're here, and we just couldn't find it. It might be under a cloud or something that we just can't find it. But thank you for that tip anyway, because the Culture Park is actually this awesome collection of boutiques and coffee houses and galleries and lots of fun stuff that we're really excited to explore. But we came here for dinner, so we came here for dinner. A lot of things were invented in China. Gunpowder, umbrellas, other things. But clock making is not actually one of them. Clocks didn't come to China until the late Ming Dynasty in the 17th century when the Jesuits came over.
认不到，我以为我们认不到。
是英文。
英文。这个要值多少钱？人民币值多少钱？
Do you remember how expensive this was? Much like when the Germans brought beer making to Qingdao, they needed local artisans who could do the skill. So clockmaking did take off in China after Ming Dynasty until the Cultural Revolution, when they took a pause on fancy watches. I'm certainly not against wasting time. I love wasting time. Just not wasting time for someone else. I'll waste my time. Just like I don't want my products to tell me when they're done, I don't want someone else to tell me how to waste my time. It's not a place where you make an appointment. So this woman was just like, how long?
先给他喽。外国朋友先照顾下，外国友人先照顾下，来坐。
Oh, 谢谢. I tried to replace the battery myself because that's how I do. And I had watches when I was younger that you like stick a coin in the back and screw the back off, but this is actually like a nice watch that Peter bought as like, I'm a grown up now, but also it's so metal. I feel like I don't really understand Chinese food that well, maybe like less well than when I got here. And part of that is because I'm a little picky about meat. And part of that is I'm trying to eat less meat on purpose for the environment. But that cuts out like a lot of Chinese food options. For example, this place's specialties are whole chicken and whole fish, and I ordered tofu and dumplings and vegetables. But it's fine. I mean, that's why we end up at Hot Pot a lot, because I have more control to choose lots and lots of vegetables. But it does give me that weird feeling like I love Chinese food. What is it? So it's the next day, and we decided to come back to the 𝗖𝗵Cultural Creativity Center. Our neighbor said there's some pretty cool galleries and stuff here, although he advised against coming on the weekend because it's super crowded. But we're in luck because today's Wednesday. And so the back was not a twist off. And I watched a YouTube video that was like, if you buy these simple tools online, blah, 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 do it yourself. And I was like, do I want to be a person with watchmaking tools? That's a bridge too far. It only cost 30 kwai, and she just popped the back right off. And lickety split, it's fixed. She does a good business too, I think. 多少钱？30块。好。
我都好多钱，老板娘我。
谢谢。
我是你
I like getting things fixed. I mean, this was an expensive watch, so of course we were gonna, and it was just the battery, it wasn't even broken. So of course we were gonna like figure out how to get that done. And like phones and stuff, I try to fix as long as, phones and computers and things, gadgets, I try to fix long beyond a point when I think most people would just buy a new one. Planned obsolescence is the biggest fraud. I want to decide when I'm done with my things, not you, Apple. I have a computer that I've already repaired a couple times, needs the fan replaced and maybe a new heatsink. It's 10 years old. But it's gonna come a day, like even if I can get new parts for it, Apple isn't supporting the operating system anymore, which is 珠海，对，啊，
死海那个大自然的那个真的很漂亮。
啊，我也看过，嗯。你们是宜宾人吗？
对呀。
啊。
我们是土生土长的宜宾人。
啊。
原来你们来过我们这里，我们还没去过你们的家乡。你们的家乡就在大洋的另外一边。
They're from Yibin, and I told them we went to the 𝗵𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗴. All this stuff is like not just expensive to buy. Sometimes it's very cheap to buy, but it's very expensive to manufacture. Like I buy pants at H&M and then get them repaired like beyond the cost of what I paid for pants at H&M. But fixing them is more environmentally friendly, so that's what I like to do. In the last decade, actually, independent watchmaking in China has become kind of a thing. And I think Chongqing has a guy for everything, because there's a guy, Qinggan, who comes from Chongqing and makes like $10,000 watches that people get on waiting lists for. It has Sichuan peppercorn gelato. And it's fantastic. What's Sichuan peppercorn? If you don't know, wait for our hot pot video. Watches are a thing I do understand in the abstract of like why people are so into them. Watchmaking is so delicate and it's such a cool piece of engineering. And it's funny to think like in 400 years ago they figured this out. But there have been new developments. I'm not talking about the Apple Watch though. And there is, you know, the things used to be made better, but just because that sounds like an old person doesn't mean it's not true. Like I have a jacket that my grandma used to wear way before she was my age. Like in college she used to wear it, and now she gave it to me. It's not this jacket. And it's a little worn because it is like 60 years old maybe, but it's definitely outlasted by decades other clothes I bought in the modern era. If I'm gonna have stuff in my life, I kind of want to care for it. It's kind of a true cliche of that the young have no problem wasting time, but you really start to feel it when you're older, of like, what am I doing with my time? I'm gonna die soon. I'm not gonna die soon, I hope. Actually, when I was young, I didn't mind a commute because I was excited to have a job and like wear nice clothes and have my metal coffee cup and like get on the train. It was more about like being in the city and being in the morning commute as part of the city. That wore off pretty quickly.
好，点暂停，点暂停。好，可以了。好，谢谢啊。
不用谢，拜拜。He actually runs a DIY watchmaking forum called Watch Lead that China watch enthusiasts populate. And I saw they had a recent thread about pocket watches and whether How many pocket watch enthusiasts there might be in China? Is it 10 or 10,000? Opinions were divided, but I like thinking, of course, if there's enthusiasts for pocket watches in the world, there are enthusiasts for pocket watches in China. So I get it. I get why people like buy expensive ones that they're gonna pass down to their kids. It's somehow like jewelry but engineering, so it's super cool and could be manly if you need it to be. Peter always knows how long things will take, and he makes fun of me because I have no idea how long things will take. And I kind of resent being constrained by time. But in this modern world, you can't not be on the same time as everybody else. And one of the banes of that existence is the commute to work, because that is just like wasted time. And when I lived in New York City, I did have like a 45-minute, hour-long commute on the subway. So it wasn't bad. Actually, I don't mind the subway so much because you can read and you can listen to podcasts and stuff. I never had to drive. And then, fortunately, I worked like strange hours because rush hour everywhere in the entire world is miserable. So if you can work off rush hour, I recommend it. To my untrained eye, Qinggan's watch designs, they do look beautiful, but there was another Chinese forum kind of ripping him apart because he used English lettering instead of Chinese characters on one of his watches, which no matter what you could do, haters gonna hate. But since I moved to China, I've always almost always lived a 10-minute walk from work, which is not a Chinese thing, that's just how my life.
Emily,
Hi!
I recognize you because I'm your student.
Oh, hi, nice to see you. That's funny, we're not close to the school. Well, I guess why the commute is so maddening is it's not wasting time with no purpose. It's just like using time for a purpose that is boring. That's what I'm very against. But a non-directed wander around an old factory turned into boutiques where everyone around you is taking pictures of themselves to just remember that we've all been here, I think that's maybe the best use of our time. When I was in 8th grade, I started doing stage tech for our community theater, and the stage manager gave me a watch because she's like, you can't do this job and not have a watch. And that was my first inclination of like, whatever I feel, there are times I have to keep to other people's times. But that's kind of why I live this life, so I can take like large swaths of time where I don't have to be on anyone else's time.
My child.
This is your child? Oh, hello.
2 years and a half.
Oh, will you give me a high five?
High five, high five, high five. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I want to take a photo with you.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you. It's amazing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
I'm Yuna.
Yuna,
Yeah,
okay. I'll see you in class.
Have fun.
Okay. And the first job we had, we lived on campus, and so we were like a 6-minute walk from the classroom. And I did say to Peter at the time, I think I'm ruined for other jobs. I can't go back to having a job where I have to expend effort for an hour just to get to work. That seems so useless to me. When the thrill of riding the subway to work wore off, I would do weirdo little things, like I'd get off at the wrong stop and take a walk that I never took before. Sometimes I would pretend I was a spy, trying to throw people off my habits and routines. I mean, it was a bit of fun. Make my life more exciting than it was just going to and from work, because going to and from work is not that special, but most of us have to do it. I'm trying not to, though. I hate this so much.
Not a restaurant reviewer.
Ooh.